Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
And welcome to my personal water ethics, how my water relations have changed me. I first acknowledge that I am currently a guest on the Quatsino traditional territory. And this is a remote fishing village called Cole Harbor in the north part of Vancouver Island. We're right in the center. And I also acknowledge the beautiful water relative who is peacefully and calmly coming in from the wild west coast of Vancouver Island into what's called Quatsino Sound or Quatsino Inlet. And Mother Ocean called me here for the winter. And I thought that I was being called to go and retreat and go inside and get my upgrades from her about my next level of service. But no, that is not for us, any of us this year. We're being called on deck, every one of us. And so here I am out and about globally in the surprise of my own heart. So I acknowledge, first of all, that water, earth, air, fire, ether, and our nature relatives, they are conscious, they are sentient, they are intelligent. And I know firsthand that they are ready and willing to partner with us to co-create this new reality on earth. I would go so far as to say that I don't think we can do it without them. I acknowledge the Indigenous peoples as the original stewards and caretakers of Mother Earth. And I honor each person's way of connecting and communicating with nature. Everything I'm going to share with you, it comes from my personal direct experience with the nature elders that I know and love. And nature elders is a broad term that I use to describe anyone who's older than me in nature, which is a lot of our relatives. But specifically for me, in my inner circle and my particular mission, it's with rock, water, and tree. And these very much are the nature elders who provide homes for so many more of our human and nature relatives. The language and terms I use are my own, and they continue to evolve, excuse me. And the reason that that's important is that I may sound like I know what I'm talking about in this moment, but rest assured that for more than 11 years of bodies of water or trees or mountains calling me and me getting on a plane and going to find out what they were calling me about, I didn't know why I was being educated or trained in this way by being in these intimate relations with them. So the reason the word evolve is there is because I only know as much as I know until I need to know more. And then what usually happens is a nature elder calls me, and through that relationship and our deep listening together, our singing and listening and sharing together, do I start to upgrade or shift in consciousness or in my embodiment. And then we'll later find out that there's something that I'm being called on in the outside world. In fact, that I need to be at that new level of harmony in myself or the new level of inclusivity. The last thing I want to say here is that I capitalize the first letter of the names of my nature relatives, always. When I type, when I write, and when I imagine their names in my mind. So water, tree, mountain, river, and this is just my way of offering respect, just as we capitalize the first letter of our human names. I wouldn't be who I am today without my water and tree relatives. I mention them specifically because my rock relatives and the mountains have just begun to teach me. And so it has been these many years more the tree and water relatives. I'll say a little bit more about how specifically they've changed me. But I want to begin right here to acknowledge, because when we say their names out loud and we are in a heart bond with these relatives, they come, they presence themselves. So it's important that we speak their names. It's important that we speak our love and sing our love and spend mindful time with them, because it is nourishing for them. It is another form of stewardship, and it's bringing us closer and closer into the true partnership that I know we are destined to make with these relatives as we co-create a new reality together. Fraser River, Ishtako, Liard Hot Springs, Chilkat River, Athabasca River, Quesnel Lake, Peace River, Diablo Creek, Tien Huang Mountain, Huanghe, the Yellow River in China, Qinghai Lake, Bohai Sea, China, Atoyac River, Mexico, Lake Geneva, Switzerland, Nahatlatch, Fraser River Valley, Hudson Bay Wetland, dear and precious Pacific Mother Ocean, playful snow, gentle, nourishing rain, and the ancient ice, these relatives, the big, big ice that are holding the ancient wisdom from even beyond our beloved planet. I'd like to sing a song that was given to me by a fountain at a Buddhist monastery by Diablo Creek. And this song came 5 years before I had my wake up with water. And it's a song that acknowledges that water, its greatest gift to me, is that it brought me back to my heart. So I invite you, while you're listening, to bring your water relatives, your water loves, the lakes and the streams or the waterfalls or the ponds or the underground rivers or the rain that you love, and just be with them in Water is calling us home to our hearts. Water is calling us home. We love you, beloveds. We love you. And we are here and ready to partner with you.
Danielea,
Yes,
can I just pause for a minute?
sure.
I would like to introduce you. If you can stop your share for a minute and share with you and everybody watching um, what what just happened. Hang on, let some people. So I'm here with this incredible tribe of water guardians that we've been together and bonding all week and singing that song. We stood and put our hands on each other's hearts and sang into each other's eyes. And this is the practice, to really be touching our hearts, each other's hearts, and looking into our souls and into our beings, and knowing that there's only one life on earth, and it's water. And I just had such a moment that I have to share it with you and with everyone. And hello, Susan. Hello, Walter. Thank you for coming. So honored to have you join us. But my world just shot out the top of my head and my heart blew open. And this is Yoshi. And she's a beautiful singer. And her harmony was just lifting us all in this house. And she's on my same watershed. And here we have Heidi, who's on the Sacramento. And we just sang in the river. So thank you, dear, for that. Thank you for that. Because we pretend that these are presentations, but they're transformations. What we're doing today is deep transformational work. And we've been doing it all week, and we're just going to keep taking it deeper and deeper and deeper until we can get to that sheath of water that wraps our DNA. And that's where we're changing. She's good, man. She's good.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. My water is coming from my eyes. And I will share with you that one of the first things I learned from Ishtako, my river, and I'm going to talk about him in a minute. I was guided after my first pilgrimage to create a water ceremony, and I'd never done it before and was nervous, and so I followed the guidance. I tried to negotiate actually with Spirit and said, I want to do a training first and bring people along. And I heard, no, do it now. And I said, I don't know what to do. And I heard, you'll be shown. And sure enough, I was. There was a water event happening 3 weeks from that time. And so I put out that I was going to do a water ceremony, but I still didn't know what I was going to do. So I went down to the river very late one night, and I just was standing there talking, I thought really by myself, to the river in the dark, saying, my name is Danielea, and I just thought you should know that I'm bringing people to your banks in 3 weeks to sing and drum and say thank you to do. And in that next moment, I felt his consciousness rise from the river and surround me. And one moment I was alone, and the next minute I wasn't. And that was when the bonding with Ishtako happened. Something that I never even thought was possible. That a human being could have an intimate relationship with a river identical to a relationship with a human man, woman, or non-binary individual. Yeah. But the reason I'm telling you this is that I invited the Claytley Tene elder to come and help and support. Her name is Darlene McIntosh, and I'm eternally grateful. That was 2012, and she has come forward and been with me in these ceremonies. So I really honor my human water bodies who have been helping me over these years. But what I wanted to share is that there is actually a picture of me in the river, pouring the water that I took home that night in the mason jar back into Ishtako, the river, after the ceremony was done and all the other women and people were on the shore. And he rushed me, literally. He filled me with his water and it poured out my eyes. Like it literally poured out my eyes. I wasn't crying. What I learned is that when water gives us a thumbs up, and it's usually when we're being kind or we're doing something that's in right alignment with water's ways and wisdom, water will come to your eyes. And
Wow.
so for me, it's like, confirmation that I'm on the right track. So I wanted to say that I could feel these were tears of gladness. I can tell there's some are mine, but mostly it was water going, this is it. This is us. This is us. This is us. And this is what guides us, which brings us back to one of the reasons that I wanted to do a presentation like this today is, yes, there's many spiritual and healing things that I, Danielea, have received that have changed how I am in the world, including finding my life purpose, which is, to help bring nature's voice and wisdom right into human consciousness and human conversations. So to be an advocate for that. But also what I wanted to share was some of the practical ways that, because I have these deep loving relationships,
Sorry.
um, I interact with water in my home and in my life in a different way. And so these are small things, but they add up when you multiply them by 7.7 billion human beings. So I'd like to go back now to sharing the screen. I can do this. Let's see, here we go. So this is Ishtako. Let me see. Here we go. Yes. So this is, here you see me kissing is Ishtako. His English name is Fraser River. And so we virtually lived as a married couple for 7 months, intensely and beautifully. Until one day after a ceremony, he came to me literally in the same way when he arose, and he just let me know that he was no longer my primary teacher and I needed to go to the next province, to the Athabasca River and the tar sands, and see what I could do. Believe me, it was a shocking moment and I cried and I wanted to protest, but he just held me and I heard, I know, and it's done. I was like, okay. And I just immediately went into gratitude. How many people have been loved and married to a river and had that deep experience with a being? I mean, we slept together. I took him home in that particular mason jar and he lived in my home with me. And that's how we were able to relate as human being and water being on land. Because of course, the minute our water relatives come up onto the land, we call them flood, and then we start losing things. So I wanted to just say a little bit about why it's so important that I have these family relations. I'm someone that was born with three gifts, really four: clairsentient, clairaudient, claircognizant, and I'm an incarnator. So all that just added up to that it was very difficult for me to be in the human world because I could hear what people were thinking and feeling and saw what they were doing, and none of it was matching. And so I used to have this dream. This recurring dream that a grandmother was going to come one day. I would meet her on the sidewalk and she would take me away and she would show me what these gifts are for and she would help me be in the human world. Well, the grandmother never came, but the grandmother willow and the creek at the bottom of my street called me. And they, from the age of 5 to 9, were my first family. And every time opportunity I could, I went to them. I felt welcome. It was quiet. They were congruent, and we seemed to share the same values. Now, fast forward 50 years, and I've been trying to survive in the human world. And I get a call to the Sacred Islands of Haida Gwaii. It's 2008. I think Mother Earth has called me, but when I arrive, I discover it's actually the Sitka spruce trees. These are ancient coastal elders. And I experienced something in the forest with a tourist guide that triggered me. And later that night, I was literally having an argument with the universe, saying, again, why do I have this ability to feel so much if all I'm going to do is hate and judge humanity? And that's when I heard, as loud as if they were standing in the room with me, you are an interbeing ambassador. Of course, my life flashes before my eyes, and I realized, of course I am. You know, I was sitting right in the middle, not really human and not really water or tree, but right in the middle. So in that moment, I began to understand that I'm wired, I'm hardwired for Mother Earth. And I believe that there are more people like me. And my intuition told me that if I fully embraced who I was, and I fully accepted who I was and stepped on this path to develop my abilities to communicate and learn from my nature elders, that I would eventually be brought back to the human world and be able to have sustainable human relations. And here I am. It took a while. I was slow, but I'm back. So this explains to you why I speak about building family relations, because literally these are my aunts and my uncles and my grandmothers and my grandfathers, and that language and terminology flows out of me as naturally as it did when I had human blood relatives. I want to just mention me with Nokopila. So you see this incredible, incredible tree being. She's very famous. She lives in Cape Town, South Africa. And this is another kind of bonding that you can have with a nature relative. We're bonded by mission. I met her in 2019, happened to be a dark night of the soul for me to get everything stripped away while I was in South Africa. But simultaneously, I met and heart bonded, life bonded, like I did with Ishtako, with Nokopila. So she is actually my partner in unity and peace this year. And this is something that I'd like to put out to anyone who's listening. If you could partner with a nature elder this year, so an older wise being, whether it be a sacred water relative or a tree relative or a mountain or a glacial boulder, who would it be? And maybe there's more than one. The last being that is in the top right image is Quesnel Lake. And this lake, I call her a planetary auntie. She is a wise being, and one of those beings that honestly has never spoken to me directly. But she was my teacher for 5 years. She called me after there was a breach at a local gold mine, and 22 million cubic liters of slurry went into her pristine water while the salmon were returning to spawn. And we had 3 ceremonies, 3 teachings, and 3 songs. And Digging Deep for Courage is up on YouTube, as well as the video that I'm going to have Elizabeth play for us. But I wanted to say that this relative, what I noticed was, as I would go to talk to her before I would go and take one of my trips, and I would go and see her the minute that I got back. And when I talked to her out loud from the dock, somehow her presence pushed against me so that the contradictions in me, I mean, I might be complaining about somebody else when I'm telling her what's happening. And somehow she pushed against me that my own contradiction came up in front of my face. And right out loud, I would be speaking the contradiction, unpacking it, and making a new choice, like literally transforming in the moment. And so the Gaia Speaks song that you're going to see in the music video now, the lyrics come from another person. The melody comes from an old English children's song where a young man does harm to a robin. And in the moment when I realized, I had my epiphany, I put those 2 things together. this poem that is the words spoken by Gaia, received by Andrea Matheson, with this old melody, this old story of something harmful humanity had done, and it created a beautiful new song.
Your heart is my foundation. I live there in my fullness. A new design is forming. You cannot shape it with your will. Feel the rippling patterns moving the waters of your being. You are home to this creating. Gaze upon your world through the lattice of your heart and see the beauty forming. Your heart is my foundation. I live there in my fullness. A new design is forming. You cannot shape it with your will. Feel the rippling patterns moving the waters of your being. You are home to this creating. Gaze upon your world through the lattice of your heart and see the beauty forming. Your heart is my foundation. I live there in my fullness. A new design is forming. You cannot shape it with your will.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Should be us. Okay.
Thank you. That was the Salish Sea that you saw there. And, the key pieces of those lyrics that continue to guide me are: a new design is forming. You cannot shape it with your will. Feel the rippling patterns moving the waters of your being. You are home to this creating. We humans, this is Mother Earth telling us, you are home to this creating. This is our creation. Gaze upon the world through the lattice of your heart and see the beauty forming. And even to complete that video, I actually had to embody and live that.
Yeah, that's right. This is creating us.
And we are creating it. The synergy is
Yeah.
inescapable, as is the responsibility. right?
Mhm.
So I'm going to now go back to the screen screen the screen share.
The screen share.
Oh dear, I love technology. All right. So interacting with water, my water relative at home. And you know what was interesting is when I first put this title, I wanted to talk the topic is like water usage. And it was like, you know, in our language, we tend to be what I would say transactional, right? We use water like it's a thing. But as we all are waking up to, water is a living being. It is a living being. And so is accorded a relational status. So rather than how I use water at home, this is about interacting with my water relative at home. So offer gratitude when connecting. And so once my consciousness bonded with water, it was impossible for me to turn my taps on and not see, feel, hear the living being that was pouring out of my taps. So I always spoke to the water, and I would always say thank you. And I'll say a little bit more about the little bracelet you see about the water in the next slide. But I wanted to go on to hand washing and singing to your water. And this is something that I did with children, but it might be something even as an adult you might like. And especially since we've come through the pandemic in which washing our hands for 20 seconds is a long time, and millions and billions of us were probably doing that, and think probably the taps were running the whole time. So this way, when we use the Thank You Water song, which is the title track off my Thank You Water CD, and this song was actually given to me by my water tap. I asked, can you please give me a song to sing to you while I'm washing my hands and doing the dishes? And this is what I received. So imagine, and you can do this with me. So imagine, we start to sing, you're standing in front of your taps, you've got your soap, you've got your towel, and of course, your beloved water. And so the song goes like this. Oh, thank you, water. Thank you for my life. And you turn the taps on, wet your hands. Oh, thank you, water. Turn the taps off and take the soap. Thank you for my life. Put the soap down. Now, 20 seconds. Oh, thank you, water. Thank you for my life. Turn them on to rinse. Oh, thank you, water. Turn them off and shake. Grab the towel. Thank you for my life. Simple, fun, giving gratitude and using just enough water that you need. And I want to share just a very, very tiny story. I was up in Alaska. It was 2019. Alaska was where I ended up actually for my first water pilgrimage. So I was back exactly 10 years later. I was a presenter at Aquascension, Alaska. And we were sitting at lunch one day at a table, and Cheryl Angel was there. Beautiful, beautiful, amazing water protector. Standing Rock, lives in South Dakota. And a few other people were at the table, and Cheryl was sharing with us her water situation on the reserve, and about how she spot baths with pails of water. And I spoke up and I said, I do too. And one of the women looked at me and said, what do you mean? You live in Canada. You have a lot of water. And I said, yes, but water is my best friend. You have a best friend, I'm sure. And if your best friend has a lot of something, would you just take it indiscriminately from them? Or would you ask permission and only take what you need? And usually you'd be sure to give back in some way because you value that friendship with your best friend. And I said, it's exactly the same for me, right? So things like, if you're going to wash your face, sometimes, you know, we could run the water and the soap and the face cloth, etc. You're doing it at night. Just pop the plug in. Just pop the plug in. You get an inch or two of water. That's all you use. You can use it to wash as well as to rinse and pull it out. Dishes, same thing. I use a container. I put about 1 to 2 inches of warm water in, a bit of soap, and then I begin to wash the dishes. And then I rinse them with the rinse water falling into the wash water as well. And so as I wash more dishes, the water in the bowl increases, right? But I'm not using much more than absolutely what is required to get the job done. And then lastly, I'm going to say that I shower, personal habits, once a week. And I spot bath the other days. And I have very long hair, as you can see, which takes quite a bit of water to wash. And so I only do that maybe once every 10 days. Choices, personal choices.
Thank you.
Yeah, until we figure out what the deal is.
Yes, I can see you there. I'm not sure what's happening. So I wanted to speak about this little bracelet here. It's called a water blessing bracelet. And back in 2012, maybe we could get, are you looking for the mute button, Susanna? And
No, we just had to arrange something.
okay, but maybe somebody could mute you.
Sure. While you're
So when I was on my second pilgrimage with the Athabasca River, I was given in Alberta, I was given 3 directives. One was meet people where they were at. The second one, which is relevant to this, was beautify the sites and sources of water. And so I imagined a bracelet like this, a long chain with a beautiful pendant. And my roommate Helen Stiles made them for us. And you wrap them around your water tap. And when they're there and that beautiful little pendant hangs down, it's a reminder to say thank you to the water. It's a reminder that this is a beautiful living being, and that when you turn the taps on and off, you are interacting with your relative. Now, we do still make them, and we're happy to send you some for a donation. And I advise you, make one at home for your own water. You can do it with your children, you could do it with the family, and you can change them seasonally. That's what we had done. We have ones for winter and ones for summer. The other big change for me was in my diet. And this was not something that I chose, but it was clear. I bonded with Ishtako in August of 2012. By November, a butterfly, believe it or not, in the middle of winter came to live with me. And the butterfly stayed alive for 39 days. And on the 40th day, the butterfly died. And on that morning, I woke up inside of a dream, a vision of me with all these water beings in a council. And from 3 weeks from that day, I was no longer able to eat shellfish, chicken, or meat or salmon. When I imagined cooking it and eating it, my body rejected it entirely. And then 3 weeks later, the eggs went. And so, as I said at the beginning, I'm not advocating that you must do this. I'm only sharing with you that for my particular mission, I needed to be pretty much vegan. And as I shared here on the screen, it's a small sacrifice for me to make, to know my life purpose, and also to have such incredible water relatives and tree relatives and mountain relatives for my friends and family. The last thing I'm going to share is a bit personal, but I'll be quick with this. So over the past couple of years, as I've moved into what I would call full co-creative partnership with my water relatives. The messages from them, the guidance and the ways that we work together have become increasingly clear and direct. And so on November the 14th, 2021, you might remember there was flooding in the lower mainland of Vancouver and of the lower mainland of British Columbia. And it interrupted supply lines. Many animals died. People lost their homes. They lost their farms. This is something that is happening elsewhere in the world. Absolutely, many places in the world. So someone wrote on Facebook, "Hey, Danielea, like what's this about? Will you ask water?" And all I did, I actually didn't go right to asking water. I actually just went into water consciousness, which is bonded with mine. And I heard, saw, felt out of balance, out of balance, out of balance, out of balance. And we know this, we're out of balance. It's not one thing that is making these climate shifts happen. It's a consequence. No judgment, as someone found in the water lab yesterday. No judgment from water about what we're doing, but there are consequences. So I took a stand. I wanted to support a change and bring balance back on the planet. And as we've already spoken to, I personally and others know that as inside, so outside. So if I want a change on the outside, I do it on the inside first. And so I looked at my life and I looked, where is it that I still feel out of balance with either my beliefs or with my water and tree relatives? And I knew immediately where it was. I don't use single-use paper items in my house. I use cloth handkerchiefs. I use small white squares to take off my makeup. I don't use paper towel. I use cloths, but I do use sacred paper, but paper that is made from the bodies of my sacred tree relatives to address the sacred water that comes out of my body. And so right then and there, I said, that's it. This is my new choice and new commitment. And so I took an old towel, I cut it into squares, and I now have what are affectionately known, and some of you are already doing this too, as pea rags. And I love using them. I love using them. It's a simple matter to rinse them out at the end of the day. And I want to share with you in the next slide. This is what this experiment has produced for me. On November 18th, 2021, I had 4.5 rolls of TP. As of March 22nd, I have 1.5 rolls of TP. I have only used 3 rolls in 4 months. So I do feel in balance and in right relation with my water and tree relatives in this part of my life. Now, what's next for me to change? That's my question. And so one by one, I'm looking at my life and making the changes that I need to, or get creative about finding how I can make the changes I need to in order to come more in alignment and to make a lighter footprint on the earth. So I want to close by saying that lifestyle choices are very personal, very, very, very personal. And because we are all connected, our choices affect each other. So I leave you with this question. Do any of your lifestyle choices feel out of balance or out of alignment with your love and respect for water, for Mother Earth, or for another nature relative? Let's talk.
Danielea, can you put your contact information in the chat for people? Many things came up for me here. One specific one is that sort of the overall theme of the day today for me, at least in this morning session, is what I call the Great Planetary Water Cleanup. And it is inside and out. And like the vision I have is inspiring youth. And we had this earlier in the session with Eric speaking to how just cleaning up a section of a river can transform a community by transforming the humans. And I know you are a devoted garbage picker upper. And so I wonder if you could quickly just share with us that practice.
That's beautiful. It's a similar thing to what I've been saying in the sense that um, when I see a human litter on Mother Earth, first of all, it's just it's a way that I tend to her. It's a caring gesture. And we had there were two men in Prince George who independently went out to pick up and tend to Mother Earth, and I did too. And during lockdown, when we knew that a annual citywide cleanup was not going to happen, we, the three of us, who went out every single day, and picked up. We're talking some places there were 20 bags of garbage. But what was really interesting was that all of us felt the same way. For none of us did we have judgment about the people who put it there. It was simply a loving gesture. And that to me is the way to do it. I suggest don't do it if you get angry or feel irritated with humans, because that energy is more toxicity that's being put on Mother Earth. And when we make these faces like, ooh, you know, if the river smells because it's our caca that's in it, or we see a dump and it's ugly, when we make that ooh face, that we put more, we're really saying that about Mother Earth, right? But about the relative who's underneath. So I love to care for her in that way. And I feel it's my way of giving back. So every single day, she is giving me soil that grows my food and water that I can drink, and grandfather sun gives me warmth. I am receiving. So I just find a way that feels good for you to give back. And then if you make that invitation or community, you will find other people. And my dear friend and roommate, Helen Stiles, I think she's on the call here as well. She became part of our group. And the four of us, we loved being together. And, you know, we would all do our own, picking our own way. So nobody tried to organize each other, right? We let each other care for the land in the way that we felt called. And if we needed help, and lots of time we did, right? I was like, oh, I found a big shopping cart over here. You know, can you guys come over and help me haul it out? Then they would. Right? So it was just beautiful quality time together. And we really got to know our wetland. And that was the other gift. You really get to know the land where you live when you're down there on your hands and knees and pulling out little pieces of shiny, glittery plastic, sticking to the bushes. Yeah. So I had many wonderful experiences with the street people, with the neighborhood people, and normally I'm leaving and traveling to go listen and serve with my elders, but the pause helped me get to know my own watershed and my wetland.
Thank you, love.
Oh, water.